Hi, this is Stephen from Owner Disown. I really enjoyed my time with the Asus Zephyrus G14. If you didn't catch my review, I do recommend you watch it. I did cover some of the gaming in that review, but in this video I test 15 games at various quality settings, which should help you decide if it has enough horsepower to play your favourite games. All tests are done in turbo mode, and here is Assassin's Creed using the benchmark at very high settings, and the 4900HS is holding a great boost clock above 4 GHz. The first wattage shown at the bottom is for the CPU, so that is running quite high for the CPU at 39 watts, and the next is for the 2060, which pulls 65 watts. I have found that the benchmark is tougher than the actual game, so averaging 60 at very high is probably closer to 70 in actual game, and it scales quite well as you lower quality settings. Overwatch Epic settings, we see the same here. The 4900HS uses about 35 watts and holds a good boost clock. CPU temperatures in turbo mode can get into the upper 90s, so I think using manual mode with the max fan or performance mode does make more sense. Even at the higher settings, you will get frame rates over the 120Hz refresh rate of the display. Star Wars Battlefront 2 is a great looking game at ultra settings, and the G14 copes with it very well. The 2060 Max-Q is very capable at 1080p, and at 75 degrees it is running pretty cool. I expect the 60-watt 1660 Ti model to run slightly slower, but one advantage of the 2060 is its ray tracing support. We see good scaling as we lower quality settings, and a minimum of 73 at Ultra is great. And at no time did I encounter any stutters or dips. In Metro Exodus, I used the single player campaign as I don't believe the benchmark tool provides a realistic data at all. Here I used DX12 Ultra settings and wanted to show you the difference with no RTX at the top, ray tracing on in the middle, and ray tracing with DLSS at the bottom. Activating ray tracing with DLSS takes about a 25% hit in performance, so at least turning on DLSS cuts that deficit in half, and even at ultra settings, getting over 60 FPS with ray tracing on is great stuff. Forza Horizon 4 has its own inbuilt benchmark, so here it is at ultra settings. I'm very impressed by the G14 averaging well over 80 FPS at 1080p. Lowering quality settings does improve things a bit, but not much below high settings. Now I fired up Total War Shogun 2, which uses DX11, and it has its own benchmark tool. Here it is at very high settings. The G14 with its 16 threads can handle these games with ease, and lowering quality settings see some great scaling, showing how well suited the 4900HS is. In Far Cry 5 I used the inbuilt benchmark, and here it is at ultra settings. You see good GPU utilization, and the 2060 remains cool. Now the CPU in turbo mode does run hot, so your best bet is using performance mode that uses 28 watts in this title. Again, you get some solid scaling as you reduce settings, so as the system ages, you know that you can continue to get decent frame rates as the system requirements get tougher. Red Dead Redemption 2 also has an inbuilt benchmark, so I test this at high and low settings. The beauty about this game is that it's still playable at fairly low frame rates, so even high settings is fine. But since low settings is about double the frame rate, you can certainly find some good middle ground setting. Doom Eternal was tested using the single player campaign. Now the Riva Tuner overlay doesn't show up in this title, but they have their own inbuilt tool to see the frame rates and the CPU usages. It's a great game to play as well, and the G14 handled it well. I especially like the audio with these loud speakers on the G14. Fortnite was tested playing an actual match online. Here it is at epic settings. As usual, turbo mode made the CPU run hot, but the frame rate was good and the game ran smoothly. Now as we lower settings, we get good scaling again and a very good 1% lows. Here is Battlefield 5 DX11 in a 64-player multiplayer map. This game stresses a computer hard with all of the smoke effects and action that's going on. I showed turbo mode on top and manual mode with the max fan at the bottom. This shows that you have to tinker with the power options or fan speeds to choose the best balance between cooling and fan noise for yourself. I found ultra settings to be more than playable, but if you want to max out the frame rate, probably medium is best. Rainbow Six Siege was tested using the inbuilt benchmark, and here it is at ultra settings, using 100% scaling. Again, the turbo mode does run hot, and in this game I actually recommend power saver mode. You will see CPU temperatures in the low 80s with negligible hit in frame rate. And in this chart, I show the differences between the three main power modes. In manual, you can overclock the GPU by 150 MHz, and that helps in this game. Scaling as your lower settings is good. Here is Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order using epic settings. Now I use the same sequence at the start of the game. The G14 continues to show that it can handle 1080p AAA titles at high to max settings, and reducing to medium settings results in a 16% improvement. Call of Duty Warzone was tested playing a match, and I used max and lower settings as there are no default quality presets. I didn't use any ray tracing, and this footage is using max settings. 98% of GPU utilization is great, especially when the CPU is only being utilized by about 35%. So if you're into streaming or recording your gameplay, you can see that the system has overhead to spare. I found max settings to be fine, but if you want to max out your frame rate, you will typically see frame rates from the low 90s to about 120, which is great for this 120Hz display. And finally, we have Shadow the Tomb Raider, and this was tested using its inbuilt benchmark, using DX12, and this is at highest settings. The RTX 2060 Max-Q performs well with good GPU utilization. Lowering quality settings does help a bit, but high is played well and the game looks great. Now I hope you found this useful. My next video will actually show what the integrated Radeon graphics can do, so make sure you subscribe to catch that. Thanks for watching. Bye now.